just got some breaking news here, Chad, that Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats, the House Democrats, just voted yes. He's a yes on honoring Charlie Kirk, and AOC just voted no. So there is the divide right there within the Democratic Party on a resolution that really should be bringing everyone together. Thank you, Chad Pergram, live on the Hill for us with that breaking news. Let's bring in Shannon Bream now. Give us your take on, this is a resolution that is very simple.
On this vote,
very easy to understand, and there it is. It's final now. Let's listen in.
Voting present are 38. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
There it is. It has passed in the House, this resolution to honor Charlie Kirk. Shannon, your takeaway on this divide we're looking at right now on the House floor, where Democrats couldn't move themselves to vote yes on this.
Well, and you've got several of them out there that are publicly saying that they think of Charlie's legacy as something much different than Republicans do. We talked about this with the speaker on Fox News Sunday, and some comments from Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who has said, you want to call people's bleep out on this. They're trying to rewrite his legacy and calling him a hateful person. Republicans will say, go watch his clips, the things he's being accused of, racism and bigotry and these other things. You'll see that melt away if you watch the conversations he had with people. They were uncomfortable, they were difficult, but he was laughing, he would hug people. They feel like he's been mischaracterized, and so for that respect, they say this is a resolution that everyone should be able to vote for. But you mentioned some of the key players like AOC, for example. We talked earlier about her potentially running in 28 or running for the Senate or running for the White House. So the party very much has to decide what it is moving forward. Is it more progressive? Is it more moderate? Is it establishment? I mean, this vote would suggest that there's really not a lot of common ground.
Yeah, Shannon, to yours and Aisha's point, I mean, this was a very simple resolution. It's just to honor the life of a man who was assassinated. There's no strings attached here, yet you had 58 Democrats vote no against it, just to simply honor the life of a man who was killed on camera in front of the whole country to see. What does that say about where we are right now?
Yeah, again, just so divided, because if you'll look in the way that they see his legacy, the way they want him portrayed, they don't want him to be honored, viewed as a martyr, viewed as somebody whose conversations were even worthy of basic respect. I mean, he wanted to go into the difficult places. It's what he did. It's what he specialized in, was talking to people that saw things in a very different way than he did. And so for Democrats, though, that want to continue to say that his was a vitriolic, negative voice in the atmosphere, they don't want to be shown as lending any support or any credence to who he was as a person or to the mission of Turning Point. So again, for a lot of folks, I think it's been eye-opening when you see people go back and actually watch his exchanges and interchanges with people about issues of race, of sexuality, of those kinds of things. Some people express surprise that it is not the Charlie Kirk they were told it was. And, for some folks, they're going to see him one way, and that's not going to change, and that's what led to their vote today.
It's been astonishing to watch the Hill change over the last 4 years that I've been covering it, and it's gotten progressively worse and worse, the tensions between the Dems and the Republicans, but even, I would say, inside the Democratic Party, the divisions and the breaking points that we're seeing come out in moments like this. And it's been very sad, I think, and you realize why so many people out there have such a low opinion of Congress and Capitol Hill. Shannon, thanks for joining us. Want to bring in House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who was just on the House floor as Republicans passed this continuing resolution to fund the government. That would have been the big headline, Majority Leader. But I want to actually ask you about what you all just passed, which is this resolution to honor Charlie Kirk. It wasn't that long ago that you were nearly assassinated. And that was a really tough moment for this country, but we saw people come together. And this is a very different moment here that we're watching, where it's been, for some reason, difficult for people on the left to just honor someone who passed away in a horrible manner.
Yeah, it's a shame that that's where their party has moved. It's not where America is. I mean, my gosh, we've seen such an outpouring of love for Charlie, what he represented, the idea that we should be able to debate freely even when we disagree, and do it in a civil way. And that's what Charlie did, and it's what he represented. It's why you're seeing millions of people that maybe never heard of him thinking about things differently. But, you know, what happened on the House floor, those members who voted no, I thought it was disgraceful. I mean, just paying tribute, paying honor to his life, that was taken away by an assassin. You know, that's something they've got to answer, not me.
And Congressman Aisha made this point just a few moments ago that back in June, the House voted unanimously to condemn the murders of Melissa and Mark Hortman in Minnesota. Again, it was a unanimous vote. Republicans were on board for that. Everyone was on the same page in terms of saying that was horrible. But here we are, 58 Democrats won't do the same for Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, let alone the ones that voted present. I mean, what a profile and courage that is. I mean, no reason. It should have been unanimous. You know, at least it surely was on our side. And there were a lot of Democrats that voted yes. The ones that voted no, I mean, you know, open up your heart and just think about Erica and those kids and, you know, the millions of people who are heartbroken over Charlie's loss. And look, this movement's not going to go away. Charlie started a movement, but this movement's only going to grow. You can see over 50,000 young people have reached out to Turning Point and said they want to start their own Turning Point chapter on colleges or high school campuses. That's a sign that they have woken a sleeping giant.
Yeah, Aisha, right now as we speak, the House is voting on a resolution to honor the life of Charlie Kirk. You can see that vote underway on your screen right now. For more on that, we're going to send it out to Chad Pergram live on the Hill. Chad, what's the latest?
Bill, good morning. Well, they're voting right now on this resolution to honor Charlie Kirk, and this vote is going to pass. This resolution is going to pass. They're above the threshold needed here. But what I want to direct people to is how many no's there are on the board from the Democratic side of the aisle, 40 plus right now, also 9 presents. This is an issue. People called this a setup on the Democratic side of the aisle, and we were watching to see if some Democrats would vote present or vote no. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, he dodged a question about how Democrats may vote earlier. Listen. So again, this vote is still open here. Jeffries indicated earlier, he kind of dodged my question. I said, if people vote on the Democratic side of the aisle, will this continue to raise the discord on Capitol Hill? And he said, well, we put out a statement condemning political violence. And I pressed him again, and he said no. Now, I also put this question to House Speaker Mike Johnson, and he said he hoped that Democrats would not do this. Now, I should note that the House of Representatives voted 424 to nothing back in June to condemn the shootings of the Minnesota state lawmakers. So that's significant here. And we have another bit of breaking news here. Just before they got to this vote, Bill, on Charlie Kirk, the House of Representatives just passed the interim spending bill. This is a Republican written bill that would only renew all funding at the current levels to keep the government open at the end of the month. The vote there was 217 to 212. Republicans lost 2 votes on their side of the aisle. Thomas Massey, Republican of Kentucky, and Victoria Spartz, Republican of Indiana. But right before they closed the vote, there was one Democratic yes. That was Jared Golden, the moderate Democrat from northern Maine. Again, I pressed Hakeem Jeffries earlier this morning if they would have unanimity on his side of the aisle. Catherine Clark, the Democratic whip, she thought earlier in this week when I told her, I said, well, how are you guys going to vote? She thought everybody would vote no. But Jeffries cracked the door open this morning to possibly not having all Democrats vote against this CR. And that was the case there with Jared Golden. Now, what this means is this goes to the Senate. The Senate is going to take 2 kind of test votes, messaging votes on this CR later today. The House will send this over across the building. They will vote on that. The Republicans in the Senate like that, but they're going to subject that to a 60-vote threshold. And then the Democrats are going to put out their proposal, which would include money for Obamacare subsidies and also to restore some of the money for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting that was rescinded earlier this year. They're going to subject that to a 60-vote threshold also. Neither of those will get 60 votes. And so what that means is that they will be kind of in a stasis here. They won't be able to fund the government, but both sides will be messaging this until the week after next. The House of Representatives and the Senate are supposed to be out for Rosh Hashanah next week. They're not scheduled to be in session at all. And then when they come back that Monday right before the end of September, they'll have to figure this out or the government is going to shut down. But I want to flag for people, the news here is the fact that they have passed, the vote is still open, but they've passed this resolution honoring Charlie Kirk. But look at how many Democratic no's are on the board, Aisha.
Yeah, I was just watching the numbers changing here. 92 Democrats voting alongside Republicans to honor Charlie Kirk. 29 present, and 57 so far have decided not to do this. You know, it's a long ways from just a few days ago when there was a shouting match on the House floor between Democrats and Republicans just because Republicans wanted a moment of silence after the assassination. I mean, the emotions were so raw. And now we're watching that at least, you know, nearly 100 Democrats have realized that this, you know, this is an important moment here, an important message to send to the country.
Yeah, I think that's what's key, and that's what Mike Johnson was saying this morning. He said people should be able to support this from his vantage point. He said you might not have agreed with Charlie Kirk, but it honors his legacy. It also condemns political violence. And, you know, we should note that House Speaker Mike Johnson put together a vigil in Statuary Hall of the Capitol earlier this week. It was widely attended by Republicans, but there were less than a dozen Democrats who showed up. And again, Hakeem Jeffries was pressed about that. Why so few Democrats? And he said, well, they're going to make their own decisions about this. There certainly were some who came and thought it was important to show respect to Charlie Kirk, and in the effort to show comity here on Capitol Hill. But Aisha and Bill, you know, the contre-temps on Capitol Hill, the temperature has not gone down at all. And we've seen this repeatedly after various iterations of political violence, after the shooting of Gabby Giffords, the congresswoman from Arizona in 2011, the congressional baseball practice shooting in 2017. And each time members say that they are going to lower the temperature, and they almost never do. Now, the other part of this, and this pertains to the government funding bill, is that included in that piece of legislation is a provision for about $30 million to beef up security for members, something they've done ever since 2011 after the Gifford shooting, is that they have tried to put more money in to make it more safe for members of Congress who are very worried about their security because, again, the threat environment is off the chart. They're on pace to set a record this year in terms of viable threats from the Capitol Police. It's way above what they had just last year. And so that's something that Democrats, because they voted down this, with the exception of Jared Golden, that's something they voted against. This morning, Mike Johnson indicated that maybe to get some assurances from those who had reservations about this bill, that they might come back in October and put in another tranche of money for member security. But again, just the political animus here on both sides of the aisle, Aisha and Bill, is really at one of the highest levels I have seen. All you had to do is look at the hearing yesterday with the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser. That was going to be a pretty interesting hearing to start with the National Guard being here in Washington, D.C., and it completely devolved into one of the worst shouting matches I've seen in a long time between Rashida Tlaib, Democrat of Michigan, Byron Donalds, references to the Third Reich and fascism. It was pretty bad, and that kind of underscores the tenor right now on Capitol.
Well, we just got some breaking news here, Chad, that Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats, the House Democrats, just voted yes. He's a yes on honoring Charlie Kirk, and AOC just voted no. So there is the divide right there within the Democratic Party on a resolution that really should be bringing everyone together. Thank you, Chad Pergram, live on the Hill for us with that breaking news.
And the Speaker of the House there now saying this goes to the Senate next and laying down, the rules on how this really should work to put American people first before a shutdown, which would be a completely political move. And we see this go back and forth. But as the Speaker of the House just said, Mike Johnson, normally the leader of Democrats in the Senate would get them to support what he said is a clean, short-term resolution to keep the government open. So we will follow that. And, of course, the resolution to recognize Charlie Kirk and all of his accomplishments. Just days now, a little bit more than a week after his assassination. That passed, but 58 Democrats voted no. By the way, 38 Dems voted present, 22 did not vote at all. Senior congressional correspondent Chad Pergram, All of this speaks to just how divided we are. The American public doesn't care about how divided they are on Capitol Hill. They expect them to do their jobs.
Yeah, it's rather remarkable just how high the temperature has been on Capitol Hill. It was high already before Charlie Kirk was murdered last week, but this only exacerbated things. Let me start with the Kirk resolution here. You know, I talked to the House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries earlier this morning, and I said, will there be, all Democrats vote for this? Do you think there'll be some who vote present or no? Because will that raise the temperature? And he dodged my question about how Democrats might vote. Listen to this.
We issued a statement as it relates to political violence in America. The statement speaks for itself.
But isn't that a bad look if people vote no or present?
The statement speaks for itself. No single member of the House Democratic Caucus, not a single member, condones political violence in America.
I should note that Jeffries was one of the Democrats who voted for this. On the interim spending bill, of course, this passed the House. There was one Democrat who voted yes, Jared Golden, the Democrat from Maine. There were two Republican noes. You had Victoria Spartz of Indiana and Thomas Massie of Kentucky. They could only lose two on their side and pass the bill on the Republican side if all Republicans voted. That was not the case today. But now this goes to the Senate. The Senate's going to have two test votes, kind of show votes. They're going to take the House bill, subject that to a 60-vote threshold. That won't happen because it's about the math. They only have 53 Republicans in the Senate. They need 7 Democrats. And then they're going to consider the Democratic bill. That needs 60 votes. That will fail as well. And then they are stalled when it comes to a government shutdown. Harris?
All right, Chad Pergram, you're all over it today. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ocasio-Cortez herself voted no on today's resolution, joining 57 other Democrats. She did condemn Kirk's assassination before using her speech to drag his legacy through the mud. Listen here.
Charlie Kirk's assassination was a horrific and vile attack. The majority proceeded with a resolution that brings great pain to the millions of Americans who endured segregation, Jim Crow, and the legacy of bigotry today. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans.
Let's bring in David Avella, GOPAC chairman, and Michael LaRosa, Democrat strategist and former press secretary to Jill Biden. Thanks to both of you for being here. David, to you first, what is your reaction to what you just heard from her on the House floor?
Well, what the Congresswoman is suggesting, Sandra, is that no one should get a resolution before Congress that praises their life or certainly condemns their death. It's unfortunate that she's chosen to make a political stand on the floor of the House when it's simply trying to honor someone who was killed in cold blood.
I mean, do you think there will be any condemnation from her colleagues, her Democrat colleagues on that, David?
Probably not the 56 that voted with her, and probably not even from those House Democrats who did vote for it, it's unfortunate, but America will survive despite her hateful rhetoric.
All right. So as far as AOC, she went on the House floor. I'll play this out. Here's how she describes who she thinks Charlie Kirk was. Listen.
We should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was. A man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. Who, after the violent attack on Paul Pelosi, claimed that, quote, some amazing patriot, unquote, should bail out his brutal assailant. And accused Jews of controlling, quote, not just the colleges, it's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it, unquote.
So, I mean, Michael, was this necessary? Why did she go this direction? And by the way, the dozens of Democrats that voted against the resolution to honor Charlie Kirk, 95 yes votes. This is the tally, okay? 38 present, 22 didn't vote. What's going on here?
I don't know. I don't think she regrets it. I think this is how she feels. I think, unfortunately, it's probably a reflection of how a broad base of Democrats do feel about Mr. Kirk. I feel like that was a really insensitive time to do it, and somewhat unseemly to go to the House at this time to do that. There'll be plenty of time to, criticize his positions and debate his legacy later. But I frankly found that really insensitive and a really divisive way to sort of continue the sort of back and forth we're having and not bringing the temperature down, but bringing it up. I didn't think it was necessary at all.
Is it fair to say you regret the outcome of the vote? You regret the comments of AOC on that House floor. This is Hakeem Jeffries, by the way, leader in the Democrat Party, before the vote, dodged when he was asked by our own Chad Pergram, what if Democrats vote against this? Here was his response.
Democrats, what if they vote present or no on the Kirk resolution, and does that continue to raise the temperature here?
We issued a statement as it relates to political violence in America. The statement speaks for itself.
But isn't that a bad look if people vote no or present?
The statement speaks for itself. No single member of the House Democratic Caucus, not a single member, condones political violence in America.
David, I mean, that was a dodge.
It was a complete dodge. I suppose if you're trying to figure out an outcome out of this whole comment is you got 58 House Democrats who are ready to be part of the uncivil caucus. As we are trying to have a more civil discussion in this country, there's 58 that aren't interested in participating in a civil discussion, and it's unfortunate. Look, the best thing Republicans could do right now is just let the Democrats talk. Show voters who they really are. We don't need to get in the middle of this. Show voters who Democrats are. In 2026, we'll see a whole lot more Republicans sitting in Congress, and maybe a few of those 58 who voted as they did today will be gone.
I'll end with this, Michael. This is Rep. Maxwell at a news conference yesterday. Maxwell Frost claiming fascism is here. Listen.
The president and his lapdogs here in the United States Congress, the vice president, the FCC chair, the attorney general, secretary of state, and congressional Republicans are implementing a dangerous agenda to punish their opposition. Fascism is not on the way, it is here.
So, Michael, final thought to you on this. After everything we just heard from AOC, Hakeem Jeffries, and now that, what does this tell us about any change from Democrats or any change in the overall temperature and the rhetoric in this country?
Look, it's bad politics. And those are the kind of Democrats that are really going to jeopardize the good chance Democrats have of taking back the House next year. This rhetoric, aside from desecrating history and cheapening the meaning of really bloody events in our history, my Sicilian grandparents might have something to say about fleeing Mussolini's Italy. And they would love to talk about sort of what real fascism is. And we're really cheapening the memories of those who suffered from Hitler and Franco. It does a disservice, but it's just bad politics because it doesn't work. Democrats, the vast majority, our silent majority of Democrats, rejected a lot of that rhetoric because they simply don't believe it. If you want to win the Pennsylvania 7th, the Pennsylvania 8th, or the Colorado 8th, which Democrats lost and we need to take back, that's not going to work. Democrats are just not buying that message.
David,
it's divisive.
David, I got 5 seconds. Real quick response.
He said it perfectly. I probably can't say any better. And what I somewhat referenced, this is a losing issue for Democrats, but the more they want to talk about it, I'm for it.
All right. I appreciate the discussion, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Michael, David, thank you. All right. Well, there you have it. John.
Yeah. Speaking now in the Oval Office. Let's listen in.
We're doing so well as a country. We're doing probably better than ever before. If you look at the stock market and other indicators, we have tremendous investment coming in, record investment coming in. Everything's going well, but the Democrats aren't happy about that because they don't want it to go well. I think they actually dislike our country greatly. So they want to shut down the country. They want to have open borders. They want to stop the fighting of crime, where we've been very successful. D.C., as you know, Washington, D.C. is it's a hot place right now. Everyone's having dinners. They're going out all over. There's very little crime. They haven't seen numbers like this in many, many years. And other places, as you know, we're going into Memphis. We'll soon be going into Chicago. We've already had people out there. And and in there, and FBI's been there, and we've brought the numbers down, but we're going to be bringing them down a whole lot. But I guess they want crime and we fight crime, and it's a pretty big difference. They want to have men playing women's sports. They want transgender for everybody. And if they don't get everything that they want, all these things that they want that are proven so badly, they want to close our government down. We're not going to let bad things happen to our country. We're not going to approve things that we shouldn't be approving. Just today, the House Democrats voted against condemning the political assassination of Charlie Kirk. Who could vote against that? The condemning, all they're saying, please condemn the assassination of a human being. And they said, no, then we're not going to do that. Remember this, we had an election a very short time ago. Republicans won presidential. We won the popular vote by a lot. We won all 7 swing states. We won the Electoral College by a lot. We won most U.S. counties in a total landslide. So we won most, it's a very big statistic. We won the counties in a number that I don't believe has been hit before, 2,600 counties versus 525 counties for the Democrats. So the Democrats really should start respecting what takes place at the voter booth. In many cases, it's not a voter booth because they have mail-in voting, which is a very corrupt situation. But despite that, we won in a landslide. And we have to remember, when you win the election, elections have consequences. So we'll continue to talk to the Democrats, but I think you could very well end up with a closed country for a period of time. And we'll take care of the military, we'll take care of Social Security, we'll take care of the things that we have to take care of. A lot of the things that Democrats fight for, which in many cases aren't very good things, will not be able to be paid. So we'll watch and see how they do with that. They'll have to handle their constituents pretty carefully. So we're proud to announce that we won the House. We did fine in the Senate, but we need 60 votes. So we have 53 senators, and we need 60 votes. That means the Democrats have to vote in the Senate. And I don't think they will be voting. Now, what we are doing, we're really here today to talk about something else, which is the gold card, which is going to bring a lot of money into our country, which is going to reduce taxes and lots of other good things. But we'll save that for a little bit later. Why don't we do this first, and then we'll talk about the gold card, okay? Any questions?
Your call with President Xi, your call this morning with President Xi.
I had a great call with President Xi, and as you know, he approved the TikTok deal, and we're in the process. We have some great investors, some of the biggest in the world, American investors, great people, and we look forward to getting that deal closed.
Is it fully approved? The Chinese statements didn't necessarily
Well,
indicate that.
I think so. I mean, when you say fully approved, I don't know what that means. We have to get it signed. I guess it could be a formality. I found his word to be very good. President Xi and I had a long talk. We talked for almost 2 hours, and it started at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I think it was a very good talk. We talked about trade. We talked about war. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about Russia, Ukraine, obviously, and Gaza. Talked about a lot of subjects. It was a long call. It was a good call. We have a very good relationship. But the TikTok deal is well on its way, as you know, and the investors are getting ready. And I think China wanted to see it stay open, too. They wanted to see it. And I can tell you the young people in our country wanted to see it stay open very badly because, and if you take a look at my numbers, no Republican has ever done anything like we did. We got massive numbers of youth vote. And by the way, helped very much by Charlie Kirk. So Charlie was very much in favor of TikTok. He liked TikTok. And he said, you know, you should use it. And other people said that too, and I used it, and I don't know if I have I think I set records. I looked at numbers that are phenomenal. We'll pass them out to you. And it had probably a pretty big effect on the election because we won the election by a lot. So we are in a situation where in a little while, meaning a number of days, we'll probably, I don't know if you can make a deal with these people. I think these people are crazy. You know, again, anybody wants open borders and don't want to fight. They don't want to fight crime. They hate to fight crime. And in Chicago, last weekend, you had 11 people killed, murdered, and you had 28 shot. And those numbers have been pretty consistent all throughout a period of time, whether it was 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, 11 people, 12 people killed, murdered. And they don't want to spend money to fight crime. And it's not even much money, relatively speaking. It's very little. But we're going there anyway. It doesn't make any difference. We're going to Chicago. We're going to Memphis next. And we're going to clean up the crime in the cities because we have to do that. Okay?
Mr. President, with this deal today, are you confident that the CCP won't be exerting control?
Yeah, we're going to have a very tight control. And look, it's an amazing thing that's been created. There's tremendous value with TikTok. And I'm a little prejudiced because I frankly did so well on it. You know, it got me numbers that nobody's ever even heard of before. So a lot of people want it. The young people of this country want it badly. The parents of those young people want it badly. And so we were able to work out a deal with China. And it's a very good deal for us. I hope it's a good deal for them.
Mr. President, would you be confident in a deal, or would you accept a deal where China controls the algorithm of TikTok?
Well, it's all being worked out. We're going to have very good control. We have these are American investors, all of them, and they all love our country. They're all very well-known people, very famous people, actually, financially, and they'll have control of it.
Mr. President,
I want to thank President Xi because he was a gentleman, and we've just had a good relationship. And we wanted a lot of people in this country wanted to be open. If it weren't open, maybe, I don't know. I think we won by so much it wouldn't have mattered. But we got a lot of votes. We got a lot of Republican votes from very young people. You go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, sir. Russian jets entered Estonia's airspace today for 12 minutes. Do you see that as a threat to NATO?
Well, I'm going to have to look at it. They're going to be briefing me in a short while, so I'll let you know about it tonight or tomorrow.
What's your take in general? Just being.
Well, I don't love it. I don't love it when that happens. It could be big trouble. But I'll let you know later. They're going to brief me in about an hour.
And a follow-up on Charlie Kirk. There's been a lot of talk about free speech this week. Do you see a difference between cancel culture and consequence culture?
I mean, your question's a little trick question.
It's not meant to be.
I'm a very strong person for free speech. At the same time, when you have networks where I won an election, like in counties, I guess it's 2,600 to 525. That's called a landslide times 2. When you have that level of popularity or voter support, as I did in the last election, and yet 97 and 94%, different numbers. You see different numbers with different stats, but 97, 94, 95, 96% of the people are against me in the sense of the newscasts are against me. The stories are they said 97% bad. So they gave me 97. They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad. See, I think that's really illegal, personally. You can't have a free airwaves. You're getting free airwaves from the United States government, and you can't have that and say, and somebody that just won an election, and I had to go through this during the election. I think it's a miracle that I can win when 97% of the stories on the networks are bad, or whatever it may be, whether it's 89, it doesn't matter. It's a tremendous number. You know it, you report it all the time, and it changes. But when you have that kind of a negative reporting, fake negative reporting, when they take a great story and they make it into a bad story constantly, that's what they do. Look, 60 Minutes took Kamala's answer and they threw it out and they gave her a different answer so that she sounded competent. When things like that happen, George Slopadopoulos from your network, right? George Slopadopoulos had to pay $16 million to me because of what he said. And that's ABC. You had to pay more than that. Your network had to pay more than that. So I think it's very sad. But I think that reporting has to be at least accurate. at least accurate to an extent. Again, when somebody is given 97% of the stories are bad about a person, that's no longer free speech, that's no longer anything, that's just cheating, and they cheat. And they become really members of the Democrat National Committee. That's what they are, the networks, in my opinion. They're just offshoots of the Democrat National Committee.
Mr. President,
Mr. President,
if I can just follow up. Mr. President, thank you. Liam Cosgrove with Zero Hedge. People are still anticipating who your pick for National Security Advisor will be. They're worried Marco Rubio's a little overworked. And one of the reported frontrunners is Michael Anton from the State Department. He's just authored the National Security Strategy. Also in the mix is Mike Flynn and Steve Witkoff. Can you give us an indication of who
We're all good. No, we'll make a decision soon.
Okay.
But we're doing very well. You know, I settled 7 wars, more than that, I think.
All right, we apologize for the interruption. That's President Trump taking questions from the Oval Office.
Pro-Jimmy Kimmel protesters holding a rally outside ABC offices in New York City, showing that the left is more outraged over a late-night comic getting suspended than the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk. According to reports, Jimmy Kimmel was about to double down on attacking MAGA, making himself the victim, and say critics were twisting his words. But Disney execs feared he would just make things worse. And now Late Night is rallying around Jimmy and trying to turn him into a low-rated martyr.
But tonight, we are all Jimmy Kimmel. I still have a show, though, right?
Kimmel was suspended by ABC after pressure from the FCC, leaving everyone thinking WTF.
I've always admired and respected Mr. Trump. And if you've ever seen me say anything negative about him, that's just AI.
We have another fun, hilarious, administration compliant show. What are you doing? Shut up. Blow this for us.
And Democrats are continuing their collective freakout. Tampon, who had a COVID snitch line, says Kimmel's suspension proves we're living in North Korea.
Ever wondered how democracy dies? You're witnessing it. It's one of the most outrageous affronts on this. This is North Korea-style stuff.
If Congress is willing to say, we're going to completely abdicate even its most important power, then what is left to constrain a runaway presidency, and in particular presidency that is heading more and more towards dictatorship?
It's unacceptable, it's unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, House passes a resolution honoring Charlie Kirk, and 58 Democrats voted against it, including AOC, who used her floor speech to smear Kirk.
His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans, far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution. It is equally important that Congress does unite to reject the government's attempt to weaponize this moment into an all-out assault on free speech across the country.
President Trump slamming those Democrats.
Just today, the House Democrats voted against condemning the political assassination of Charlie Kirk. Who could vote against that? The condemning, all they're saying, please condemn the assassination of a human being. And they said, no, we're not going to do that.
Jessica, the Kimmel situation, have you seen a lot of people really that upset about it? I don't see any big rallies in the streets or big massive protests anywhere. Just seems like the media is more upset than anybody.
Well, the media and politicians and everyone, all the editorial boards of the nation's biggest paper, including the Wall Street Journal, that wrote Mr. Kimmel's words were only moderately offensive. We want to be clear that none of this justifies the right's resort to regulatory censorship. And the premise that Democrats are more concerned about Jimmy Kimmel than they were about the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk is completely unfounded. Democrats said all the right things that all of us felt about that it was tragic, that violence, political violence, has no place in our society. And we were met with, this is your fault, and we are at war. there's been this move today to rewrite the story of how Jimmy Kimmel ended up being indefinitely suspended to absolve Brendan Carr of his role in this and the government's larger role in it. But the timeline just doesn't add up. I've heard, well, read the Hollywood Reporter and read the Wall Street Journal on this. I looked through all of it, and the common denominator is that Brendan Carr said to Benny Johnson, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. And the affiliates, who were already freaking out about it for sure, decided then that they were going to pull it. And so ABC and Disney in general, Bob Iger, had no choice but to do it. There are some smart Republicans that are cautioning them to come back from this line. Ted Cruz, of all people, who's the chair of the Commerce Committee, which actually has oversight over the FCC, said what Carr said there is dangerous as hell. That's right out of a mafioso. When it's used to silence conservatives, we will regret it. We should denounce it. So I understand now we don't live in cancel culture. It's just consequence culture. And you think an eye for an eye is a good solution to everything. That's what I've seen pelted at me about this. Well, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this. That is not a way to run a free society. And you can't just trample on the First Amendment because something tragic and horrible happened.
So if all the advertisers were flooding the zone and a lot of the affiliates were saying we're not going to run this, and all the executives were getting inundated with emails from angry viewers across the country, isn't that just the marketplace, Kellyanne, saying this guy's got to either apologize or we're not running the show?
Yes, this was a simple market-based movement. The customers didn't want it. Dave Smith from Sinclair said this is insensitive and it goes against the values. And what we're hearing from our listeners, it's not that Jimmy Kimmel just said a random joke and didn't invoke the late Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, or President Trump. He did all of that. He said that the way President Trump is mourning Charlie Kirk is the way a, quote, 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, thereby analogizing our president and commander-in-chief while he's overseas representing us to a 4-year-old and to the fallen Charlie Kirk, a friend to, I'm sure, everyone around this table, to a goldfish. People are tired of it. And by the way, the consumers also stopped watching him a long time ago. Same thing that's happened to Colbert has happened to Kimmel. Nobody's watching it because you're not funny. If you're not a reporter, check. You're not an entertainer. You're certainly not a comedian. You're not funny. These late night shows are watched by Democrats. The rest of us don't want this lack of, this left-wing loser fest slop late at night. Most of the guests are left-wing. Most of the dialogue is anti-Trump. And people are tired of it. They want to give this guy a moment to succeed. Now, AOC, she's no longer even interesting to watch. She's turned into Mazie Hirono and Kamala Harris when they're both in the Senate together. I have memorized the way they all part their hair. They're constantly looking down, reading the stuff other people wrote. Am I? Are you? No. They can't. She's reading that for the first time, something that a staffer wrote for her. And even in this moment where they're all saying, can we have more civil discourse? Can we all be nice, bipartisan, blah, blah, blah? They can't just say yes to a resolution that honors the life and legacy that someone who built his career on civil discourse, on open dialogue, on allowing people to challenge him and, quote, prove him wrong. They can't even do that. They can't condemn the killer. And Jessica, this all started for a very simple reason. Kimmel lied. He lied on behalf of ABC and Disney that this assassin is, quote, one of us, meaning one of MAGA. This guy is like Kimmel, twisted, ignorant, unfunny, savage.
But it's up to his employer to decide what happens, not up to Brendan Carr.
No, Brendan Carr didn't do this. No.
He's gloating about it. He's using gifts of Jack Nicholson in the office.
You're using a nexus that's not there.
That's not true. And by the way, it happened on Benny Johnson's show.
No. He suggested that, but the affiliates did what they wanted to do, and this is a business decision and it's a moral decision.
You know, it's funny. They keep saying that Trump suspended Kimmel. I believe Bob Iger at Disney was the one to do that. If they should be mad, they should be mad at Bob Iger.
And that's right. That's right. It's so laughable to me that this is anything other than an employee-employer dispute that one should see is inarguably an employee that has misbehaved. We all remember Deflategate. We all remember Tom Brady and everyone's freakouts about the suspensions, but that's an actual union contract that dictated per precedence that, yes, there's accountability and there's a certain sentencing that occurs when an employee misbehaves. Remember in the 90s and the 2000s, Howard Stern, the FCC was fining and suspending, was fining a lot of these affiliate stations. So the networks were suspending them, and everyone sued the FCC and everyone sued the networks. But courts upheld that, yes, If these guys are not following the then indecency standards, absolutely that they can get the axe. And you cut to today's standards and today's courts, and they have held resoundingly that the integrity of an employer's, let me get this right, the employer's interest in brand integrity indeed outweighs an employee's right to free speech or to say what they want. So you put that against the climate that we've discussed, where you have a host on entertainment. Entertainment is his gig. Well, that means you want as many eyes as possible. You want to be as popular as possible. Well, he instructed half the country not to watch him. His ratings absolutely plummeted when people took him at his word and also found him unfunny. And so therefore, this is either 3 strikes when he's inaccurate, when he's inflammatory, when he's unfunny, but most importantly, on a network here where we uphold the highest standards of credibility and accuracy, I can see quite clearly that indeed this was someone who was fired for not upholding his network standards and for being inaccurate and doubling down. You think there's not an employer on the other side of the desk that writes his employment contract? This is at will. That's nothing to do with free speech. And the real victim here, might we remember, is certainly not Jimmy Kimmel, who can just go on a podcast or his OnlyFans. The real victim here is Charlie Kirk, and he's not alive to defend himself.
Jimmy Kimmel OnlyFans.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that.
Provocative.
There's always a niche.
There's no guarantee for free speech or misinformation or hate speech. That's Tim Walz. This is a matter of corporate responsibility. Twitter should be held accountable and shut down. That's Kamala Harris. And this is gold. I believe that when it comes to broadcast television like Fox News, these are subject to federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. That's AOC. Are you asking me, do I think Jimmy Kimmel should be taken off air for making really bad jokes about something that's sensitive to me? No. Am I going to shed a tear for him? No more than I did for the American citizen terrorist that Barack Obama droned dead. Sometimes common sense prevails. Sometimes you go too far. If we're going to have a legal, ethical conversation right now, okay, but that standard doesn't apply all the time. If we're doing anything right now, we're watching the Trump administration use the left's logic against them, and they're absolutely losing it. There are people in this country who are libertarian, who have only ever advocated for free speech, who have all the right in the world to be upset right now. Democrats, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, AOC, have no room to say a word about this at all, because they've done nothing but advocate for the same against Trump. What are they going to do? You know, if they were in charge of Congress, they'd start an investigation and they'd use all of our resources to find out just what the FCC chair said, while the rest of us are both mourning Charlie Kirk and trying to decide if our country is so effed up that we can't come back from it, that while our families at this table are wondering, can we give a public speech again? You know, the one thing that didn't come through was a big gun debate, because this is an old rifle from World War II. I mean, the person that was killed tragically before that was killed with a knife. Maybe now people will learn that there's some rottenness in souls, not just the tool they use, that we could have some come-togetherness about and try to fix. I don't know if this guy they caught is the one that killed him. It certainly looks like it. There's a lot of questions I have, the least of which is Jimmy Kimmel being treated unfairly? All right.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.